didn't have a boyfriend. I would just like to go off and listen to really rude comedy. Don't ever think the role is too small for you. I always learn on every single job.
What is the one lesson you think you would take away?
My one takeaway.
Nina Wadia OBE is an award-winning actress, best known for her standout roles in the hit sketch show Goodness Gracious Me and as Zainab Masood in EastEnders, a performance that earned her Best Comedy Performance and Best On-Screen Partnership at the British Soap Awards. Nina Wadia spent her childhood across continents before moving to England. She has built a diverse and successful career across theatre, television and film. From starring in movies which include Bend It Like Beckham and Aladdin, to appearing in stage productions including Now That's What I Call a Musical and dazzling audiences on Strictly Come Dancing. Nina Wadia continues to light up every stage and screen, and in this episode she shares her journey with us.
It would be really interesting to start with why you wanted to pursue a career in acting and what sparked that idea that actually I want to be an actress.
To be honest, it was the importance of being earnest. In my second year of A-level, I went and I auditioned for one of the lovers, and instead they gave me Lady Bracknell. And I didn't realize it at the time because I was a lot younger that actually she's the best part in it. And it brought the house down. So I got such a buzz from doing it because I used to write little sketches and things for my friends. We were part of this sort of theatre club at school. And so I used to write sketches that they used to perform, not me. And then I thought, you know what, let me try this. And then I played her and she got such a great response. And I felt so... I don't know, it just felt really, really, really good. It's like a drug. It just makes you feel really good.
Were you always creative?
I danced a lot. When I grew up in India, so between 1 and 9, I grew up in India. And my mum used to say that I couldn't sit still. So she put me in Vaijayanti Mala's Bharatnatyam class, which was amazing. So I love to dance. I mean, there was a cruel teacher who used to stand on our feet to flatten them, which apparently was appropriate in that day and age. They wouldn't dare do it now, but yeah, so you could get a better sound with, the gungroos on. I loved it. Loved dancing. It was my absolute passion. If anything, I thought maybe I'd go into dance. Then I kind of went to Hong Kong for our, next set of years. And of course, they didn't have Bharatanatyam there. They had tap. So I did some tap. But I kind of grew more interested in writing and making people laugh. I don't know what it is about hearing the sound of people laughing when you're doing something. It just makes you feel empowered and it makes you feel like you're doing a service for them. I think happiness, begets happiness, and I like seeing people happy. I want to make the world a nicer, better place with humor.
That's amazing. It seems like your family had a tremendous influence on your upbringing and encouraged you, especially, for example, to go and train classical Indian dancing, Bharatanatyam. Did the direction for a career in creative arts, was that from your family? And who was the biggest influence whilst you were growing up? And it would be great to know about your role models and who else inspired you.
Well, as you can imagine, growing up in India, we used to watch the black and white films with Raj Kapoor and, people like that. And my dad, who worked in the airlines for many, many years, he was always someone that everyone gravitated towards because he'd make them laugh. And so I kind of grew up with a lot of laughter in the house. My mum also... great sense of humor, but not as much of a clown as my dad. And so when I told my dad that I had an interest in doing this, growing up in Hong Kong, watching people like Eddie Murphy or Joan Rivers or Robin Williams doing their stand-up, I just thought that was the most incredible, exciting thing. And I used to have to hide and do that, by the way, because, of the language they used. My parents were not into swearing at all. And that was my little... I'd go off and I didn't have a boyfriend. And I would just like to go off and listen to really rude comedy. That was my naughty thing that I did. So I was very geeky that way. But yeah, and I just fell in love with that. So I think the influences came from people that genuinely made me feel good and made me laugh at life and what life brings.
And growing up in India and then Hong Kong, and then you made your career here, the cultures are so different, aren't they? How did you find it when you came here, having had exposure to all those other cultures?
Well, the other thing that happened in Hong Kong was the British TV that was on with things like Blackadder and Fawlty Towers. So I kind of knew that the sense of humor was the same. This quite dry, dark, sarcastic humor. I fell in love with that. So that's why I mean, I had the choice to go to either New York or come to London, because I auditioned for drama schools everywhere. But there was something about London that seemed the right place for me. And what was lovely was finding this British Asian community here that just immediately embraced me and, was very caring for me. And I thought, yeah, these are good guys. These are people that they have that mix that I felt I had of being Indian, but not being Indian, and having Western kind of values and interests and things that I like from Western culture. But I also hold on to my Eastern roots because I feel that those are grounding and those are values that I've passed on to my kids, but still let them have the freedom. And that was the combination that made me feel like home. Because I didn't feel it in India. I didn't feel it in Hong Kong. I felt it here. Because I think British Asians, we all know what life is really about. I feel that we have that grounding value and morality, and yet we love the freedom that Western culture allows you to have.
Yeah, and I think, look, you've amalgamated both cultures so well together. And you've obviously had a glittering career, which has spanned, goodness gracious me, Aladdin, EastEnders, and Spoonicum dancing too.
And I just literally saw you in The Vicar of Dibley the other day because we were watching old
Oh my
episodes.
God, that was years ago. Well, I call it my bad haircut phases. I decided to go really short for no apparent reason. Realized I have a very small head. So yeah, Vicar of Dibley was fun. And see, for me, I know that success comes from being a jobbing actor. I think people equate success with only if you're in Hollywood, and it's not like that. To have a career, I've been doing this for 35 years, to keep working and keep trying new avenues. I mean, I'm starting my first ever musical at this age, and I'm terrified. I've never been trained as a singer, but I'm excited because I think what keeps me young and what keeps me fresh in the business is trying new things. So when this opportunity came along to do this musical, I was thinking, why am I saying yes to it? Why? But I love that I have. My kids think I'm crazy, but I'm excited. It's something different. It's something new. It's touring again, which I haven't done in a very long time. And I didn't enjoy it the first time, so I don't know what I'm going to like it this time. But it's a different story. And I love the story in this. It's set in the 80s and it's in my heyday, which I loved. And it's proper storytelling again within the musical, which is what's exciting.
How have you sort of developed your skill sets to diversify so much, and how important do you think it is, especially for emerging creatives, to also have that in their toolbox as well, to be really diverse?
Again, it's a lesson I learned in drama school. I had some really crazy experiences in drama school. This amazing woman called Barbara Buckmaster turned up from school in Wandsworth called the London Theatre School. And she really liked what I did in my last showcase. And she said, look, I'll take you on into our drama school. Come to us. And I said, well, I can't afford yours. The reason I went to the one in Richmond, because it was cheap. And she said, well, don't worry about that. She said, just come and I trust the process will show you where you need to be going. So I had someone who believed in me when I was 19. And one of the things I learned in that drama school was, don't ever think the role is too small for you. Do what you can with the smallest of roles and you'll be noticed. And that has really worked in my career. I've done small parts in very big jobs. I've done a bigger role like in EastEnders. Goodness gracious me, was my first proper television experience. I was learning on the job. I'd never worked with multi-camera before. And there I was doing television, which I hadn't been trained in. I'm a theatre actress. Did 7 years worth of theatre. And then suddenly to be told, oh, you're going to be on television now. And I was like, oh, I hope I don't mess it up. So I used to go in early and learn, from the cameramen, from lighting, from sound, where to be, where to stand, how to best put across things. And then I just trusted that my character work would help. I always learn on every single job, and I've been so blessed working with people like Sir David Jason, who is a comedy legend and creative, and Stephanie Cole, Maggie Olrenshaw, Bridget Forsyth, just people who have been in the business for so many years. And I always want to learn. I always want to improve. And I say this a lot when I do workshops with younger actors. They kind of go, well, I got offered this role, but it was only 2 lines in this massive series. And you go, why did you say no? Well, it's only 2 lines. I'm like, yeah, but what couldn't you do with those 2 lines that people go, oh, that was really good? That is important. And that's the advice I give to young people. Is don't be so precious and think that you're Al Pacino from day one. You're not. You will always learn. You will always improve. And be resilient. This business is cruel. It's a cruel industry, genuinely. It's an industry where there's luck involved. You might not be one of the lucky ones. So you need to be resilient and find other ways. And nowadays you've got YouTube, you can write your own stuff. You've got Instagram, you've got so many social media platforms where you can get your work out there. And I think also learn what kind of actor you are. I realized very young that I was a character actress, and I was okay with that, because it allowed me to create so many different people. And that's the joy for me in the industry. If I ever lose that joy, I'll leave the industry. So find out who you are. If you want to be a lead actor, but you're not a lead actor and you can recognize that early on, do that. It's a healthy thing to do. And along with resilience, also have the opposite. Also know if you've been doing it for about 20 years and you've never got a job, it's not for you. So it's having that bravery. And I do call it bravery because this is a risk industry. So be brave in the choices that you make. Go for it, but also recognize your abilities, your senses. And if you keep getting told the same thing over and over again, maybe there's something in it. Don't let your ego get in the way, because that is something that can really bring you down.
Thanks for sharing that. It's so inspiring. You're one of the pioneers when it comes to acting and British Asian, British Indian acting on our mainstream TVs. Growing up, I remember seeing Goodness Gracious Me and thinking it was completely revolutionary, which it was. Would you say that you felt you faced challenges? And I ask it in that way because you have already expressed that you felt comfortable when you came here. So I imagine you would have used all of your Indianness and your culture that you took and your experiences from Hong Kong and then felt at home here. But did you feel perhaps there were barriers, but maybe you overcame them or you didn't see them?
Oh, no. Great question. When my first 7 years worth of theatre, I never got an opportunity to show what I could do because I was still in that phase where they were looking for the token Indian or the token black person. In every show, I was the only brown person. And it's because they always had to tick one box, which is why when we did Goodness Gracious Me, Dave Lamb was our token white guy, because he got what we were trying to do with Goodness Gracious Me. I do feel that you have to be that extra bit talented or that extra bit pushy or that extra bit of something, jack of all trades, in order to be noticed and given your chance and your break. So all the British Asian actors made me feel welcome. It was always a struggle because I never got a chance to really show anything. And then we were writing these sketches. There was 6 of us, and we were directed by Indu Rubasingham, who is brilliant and is now at the National, artistic director then. It's wonderful because we wrote our own stuff, and it was called Do You Eat With Your Fingers? And that came from being in a Pakistani restaurant in the East End where I was with white friends and the waiter gave everybody cutlery except me. And I said to him, why haven't you given me cutlery? And he went, you eat with your fingers. And it just made me laugh. And so we co-wrote this show and co-performed this show. And that's where I was seen for Goodness Gracious Me. And they said, will you come on board and join us? And I was like, oh, I haven't done TV. You had Kulvinder, who's fantastic, had already done The Real McCoy and stuff like that. So I joined this troupe of people who had already done television, and I was terrified. But at the same time, it was exciting. So I said, yes, please, I'd love to do it. And that was it. Before I knew it, I went from an absolute nobody to suddenly being a role model for people. And I thought, hang on a minute, I've missed the middle bit, which is the bit I was excited about. Honestly, I will never forget just suddenly being at the British Comedy Awards, the Comic Heritage Awards, just suddenly we were really successful. And I thought, wow, this show has said something a bit beyond just comedy. It was saying a lot about the ethnic experience, the immigrant experience in a white country. And I learned on the job. So it really, really hit home how lucky I was. That was my luck. That was my break. Had I not been seen in Do You Eat With Fingers, and I was about to give up acting because I just thought, I'm never going to get a big role. And that's when it happened. So it's a tough industry, and you have to be resilient. You have to know your worth. And you have to fight a bit more than white actors.
What's really interesting, I think, at the beginning of this interview, you said so profoundly how acting is a purpose for you to serve. With so many diverse experiences, what is the one lesson you think you would take away?
I didn't know, in my naivety, I did not know what we were doing so much with Goodness Gracious Me till the second and third series. I was the youngest, and I was just so excited to be on television. I was so happy to be doing comedy. I was so grateful to laugh every day in my job. And it's only in the second series I realized, actually, we have a responsibility. So I would say my one takeaway is learning, constantly learning in this industry, what your responsibilities are, how you can serve people well. And it worked for EastEnders, which came in after. I'll never forget, I was doing the vagina monologues and I was seen on stage. And I think that's actually how I got my EastEnders break. They said, we want you to create a character called Zainab Masood. And I remember being asked, are you okay playing a Muslim woman? Because I'm not. And I remember thinking, what an odd question. You've never asked me before, are you okay playing Hindu or are you okay playing Punjabi? You know, I'm a Parsi, I'm a Zoroastrian, and we respect all cultures and religions. And I've played everything, I think, except a Parsi woman, to be honest. And so for me, it's educating people along the way. And that's why I liked Zainab Masood, because I thought I'm taking on a responsibility here. It was at the time when, you know, Muslims in the UK were not treated very well. I just felt a responsibility there to tell the story of this particular kind of culture and background. And I was very careful about making sure that I spoke a lot to my Muslim friends and made sure I was telling the right stories in the right way. And when I was told I'd be playing this homophobic mother, I said, well, what's the payoff? You know, I need to know where that story's going. And I thought, yeah, I want to tell this story. You know, my fan mail went from, haha, crazy funny, we love her, to when I did the domestic violence storyline, getting fan mail from young women who were married and not happy in the marriages that they were in because they were forced into it, and writing and saying, we support you, Zainab, you know. And I thought, wow, okay. So it was really interesting. I did so many stories within that show that seemed to have changed a lot of lives. And I felt privileged, but I knew there's that responsibility there now.
So much more, obviously, we see you on screen, but speaking to you, you get a fuller and rounder sense of what goes on behind the scenes. And that, I guess, for emerging creatives, I think those lessons are really important.
You know, I work a lot with young emerging artists. In fact, just did an animation for this young animator called Mansi. She wrote this little animation called Bunnyhood. And it's really quite dark, but it was a superb script. And she said, I've got no money. And I was like, it doesn't matter. I love the script. Same thing happened with Core, when Pavinda and Juggy got in touch with me and said, they got in touch with me on LinkedIn. And they said, we want you to play this character. We've written it for you. Again, we have no money. I was like, it's not about the money for me. It is about being creative. And Bunnyhood has just been entered into Cannes. I'll be very honest, as embracing as the British Asian community was when I started, it didn't really give you an opportunity. And so I know how difficult it is starting out. I know, I've been there, done that. So when I get scripts sent to me, and sometimes people just get in touch with me in the most random ways. There's one guy met me in the street, in Oxford Street, and said, oh my God, I'm a filmmaker. I've got this script. Can I please have your email address? I beg you. It was just so hilarious. And I was like, send it. And we're trying to develop this now because this story is amazing. I like people are brave, but I'm also quite blunt. And my rule is, if you send me something and I'm sorry, I don't think it is for me or good enough, I'm quite honest and go, not for me. And let's move on. Whereas when I do find the odd thing that you just go, wow, this is really cool. I don't care if you're 15 or if you're 103, it doesn't matter to me. If it's something creative and interesting, I love being a part of it. Because I just love seeing people succeed. It just, I mean, look at, I've got Dev Patel. I played his mum in Skins. Himesh, I played his mum in EastEnders. It's like I'm the proudest mother in the world. I see success and I share that success with them. And I'm so proud of them and happy for them because it makes me go, hey, yeah, cool. I played his mum. You know, how cool is that? And then, you know, working with someone like Rishi Kapoor and Akshay in Namaste London, such a bizarre, like sideways move that I made. But I wanted to try it. I wanted to try Bollywood and that was the experience. It was still fun though. And I worked with someone I grew up watching in Bollywood, Rishi Kapoor. I played his wife. You know, it's like, that's what I love about this industry. Worked with Guy Ritchie when I did Aladdin. You know, it's just so random that all these different things happen. But that's because I never say no to something exciting and something that might just be fun to do just for the hell of it. So, you know, I encourage young people to go into it. I encourage them and I say, it is a fabulous industry. Be resilient and be ready for the dark side of it. There is a dark side to it. And I'm always honest about that. So yeah, good luck.
Thank you.
Inspired. Thank you.
What I wanted to say is a thank you to you both, because it's people like you that allow us to tell our stories genuinely and to feel like we've made a difference. So I just wanted to say thank you to you both.
We truly appreciated Nina Wadia's warmth and the honest insights she shared from her diverse cultural and creative journey.
Her passion for learning was truly inspiring. If you're enjoying listening as much as we enjoyed making this, please leave us a review on your podcast platform.
Thank you to Nina Wadia OBE and our guests on the Global Indian Creators podcast who shared their stories with us because they liked our purpose, which is to celebrate Indian creatives shaping creativity in Britain and beyond.
Special thanks to the Queen's Commonwealth Trust for championing our aim of inspiring the next generation of talent.
And stay tuned for our next episode, where you will hear from Pravesh Kumar MBE, director of a leading British South Asian theatre company, RIFCO, on why he is putting diverse stories centre stage.